Today, all 20 living Israeli hostages and hundreds of Palestinian prisoners walk free as part of ceasefire negotiations after 2 years of war in Gaza. Hamas said it will release 4 bodies of 28 deceased captives, but has not stated when the remaining 24 will be returned. Israel says it released more than 1,900 Palestinian captives as part of the ceasefire deal. The deal also stipulates humanitarian aid coming to Gaza, which has been experiencing famine. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared he is committed to this peace, inspiring hope that this war will end soon. The Supreme Court has announced that it will not hear an appeal from Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted child sex offender and former girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein. On the first day of its new term, the Supreme Court rejected hundreds of pending appeals, including one submitted by Maxwell. She is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence after being found guilty of child sex crimes related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. Maxwell's lawyers argued she should not have been tried or charged due to a deal Epstein struck with federal prosecutors that discussed protection for potential co-conspirators. As is custom, the Supreme Court did not explain why they turned away the appeal. Maxwell's attorneys say they will continue to seek paths for her release, including possibly seeking clemency from President Trump. Maxwell was recently moved from a low-security federal prison in Florida to a minimum-security prison camp in Texas. California is reinforcing its privacy protections for immigrants, moving to block local law enforcement from disclosing immigration status without a court order. The state's new rules say officers can't ask about or report someone's status during most interactions, including traffic stops, a direct counter to Trump's tougher immigration agenda. Supporters say it will foster trust and protect vulnerable communities. Critics argue it undermines federal law. Russia devastated one of Ukraine's thermal power plants in an overnight attack as Moscow campaigns to deny Ukrainians heat, light, and running water as winter approaches. 2 workers were injured in the attack, but no further information has been provided, including the location of the facility. Ukraine refrains from releasing details on the routine attacks in order to avoid giving information to the enemy. Repair crews work around the clock to undo the damage. Russia has made attempts to cripple the Ukrainian power grid each year before the biting winter. Immigration and Customs Enforcement says it won't carry out arrests during the Chicago Marathon, but that hasn't eased fears among some runners and spectators. Ahead of the race, ICE clarified its agents won't target participants or spectators, insisting enforcement will stay off limits during event operations. Still, for some in immigrant communities, the assurance doesn't go far enough. Anxiety lingers about sudden enforcement actions and the possibility of sweeps in surrounding areas. The world's driest desert was transformed recently after receiving unexpected amounts of rainfall. The Atacama Desert in Chile is considered to be the driest non-polar desert on Earth, receiving on average only 0.8 inches of rainfall each year. Recently, however, the desert received some unexpected downpours, causing the usually dry, barren land to explode with over 200 species of wildflowers spreading a riot of colors across the land. 20% of those flowers are unique to the area. This event happens only rarely, with the last 2 occurring happenings in 2022 and 2017. Daniel Day-Lewis is returning to the silver screen after an 8-year break from acting to star in Anemone, a film directed by his son, Ronan Day-Lewis. Ever since starring in Phantom Thread in 2017, Day-Lewis was unsure if he would ever regain his desire to tackle another role, but he has since said that he feels that his declaration of retirement was a mistake, or at least not what he intended. However, this did not stand in the way of the 68-year-old actor returning to make a movie with his son. Anemone is also Day-Lewis's first screenwriting credit. Working with his son has left him still hungry for more, with part of that fact owing to the nature of making the film. Not just that it was done with his son, but that they made it themselves. The literary genius of Stephen King and the timeless illustrations of the late Maurice Sendak are being combined in an adaptation of the classic fairy tale Hansel and Gretel. King, while having a fondness for fairy tales, had never published one of his own until he was contacted by representatives of the late Maurice Sendak, most known for his children's classic Where the Wild Things Are. While working on Hansel and Gretel, King described the experience as healing and something fresh. Sendak's original illustrations were intended to be used for a 1990s opera before his death, King expressed that his goal was to write a story that fit the pictures. The book has received glowing reviews since its release in September, going on to become an instant New York Times bestseller.